All right, let's get talking about this awesome movie then.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I don't know. Awesome might be a bit of a strong word.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I've got thoughts.
We're going to disagree again. How dare you insult my third, maybe fourth favorite Quentin Tarantino movie?
Really? Third, maybe fourth. Okay.
Well,
right.
I mean, I'm not a fan of his later work.
Yeah, I haven't gotten all the way through A Hateful Eight yet. I'm still like an hour into it.
Oh, you have like 7 hours to go then.
I was just about to say I've got 1 hour down, 5 hours to go.
The movie has like 8 acts in it. It's ridiculous.
Oh, man.
And welcome to Netflix and Kill. Oh my goodness, Travis, we have a special one today. We are returning to Tarantino. We have watched the Jackie Brown. Now Bill must be killed. And of course, who's doing the killing? Why, it's me, Nick, the Merc with a mic, and my fellow unapologist to my left here,
Travis,
the god of the pod himself. And of course, we brought on special guest, the very special guest, the professor, as we like to call him, Professor Pher Stirs. Pher, say hi.
Hi. Now, when you say very special, you mean... okay, got it. Cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean special in the good way. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know your background completely, but I think
Nick, would you like a shovel? You can have it.
Are we gonna dig our... Let's see how low we can go with this joke before we offend absolutely everyone. But, you know... Oh, boy. Speaking of offensive, Tarantino guys, am I right?
Yeah.
Not too long ago, I was quite the professional. My friends and I, we were the creme de la creme in an exclusive industry. And we all worked for this man, Bill. Then one day, I decided to leave, settle down, and start a new life. But when I tried to get out, they did me in.
Don't you ever wake up.
I guess they should have tried a little harder.
So I suppose it's a little late for an apology, huh?
You suppose correctly. Now it's kill or be killed.
You have every right to want to get even.
Get even? Even, Stephen?
I would have to kill you. That'd be about square.
And I choose kill.
Mommy, I'm home.
Hey, baby. How was school?
One ticket to Tokyo, please. One way.
That woman deserves her revenge. And we deserve to die.
No kidding, I heard it was kind of hard.
Silly Caucasian girl likes to play with samurai swords.
Yeah. Oh. Any more subordinates for me to kill?
Hi.
You didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you?
For a second there? Yeah, I kind of did.
Silly rabbit.
Hard part's over.
This is a very interesting film for us to talk about. I actually thought this film was much older than it was. I thought, like, man, this was a great 90s film, and I was like, wait a minute, this actually got released in like what, 2003?
Yep.
I'm like, that's crazy to me. This screams so 90s Tarantino. I could not believe when I saw it there.
That I think is like the most like damning way of discussing Tarantino. It's like, oh, this is a great 90s movie. Oh no, this is actually early 2000s. I think I feel that way about all of his movies. You're just like, yeah, this feels that was a really good movie for 1986. Oh wait, it came out in 2009.
Are you saying that Quentin Tarantino is adverse to change in some way, Pher? Because I'll tell you what, that might be a little too true. So, Pher, this was your pick, and I believe when you did pick it, you used the words without even a second thought.
Yeah,
so,
when I saw that list come up, where because initially I wanted to do Gareth Edwards' Monsters, which is a phenomenal movie. Unfortunately, not in the U.S. region of Netflix anymore, which was a disappointment to me. It is on Hulu though. I cannot recommend that movie enough. But I saw this list and there were a couple on there. But like as soon as I saw Kill Bill Volume 1 on that, I said no, I have to revisit this. Have to rewatch it. It's been a good 10 years for me since I've seen 1 and 2. I wonder how it's aged.
So, since you are the one that picked this film, would you like to give just a brief rundown of what Kill Bill Volume 1 is actually about?
Yeah, so we start with just a shot of Uma Thurman's face. We find she's only referred to as the bride the whole movie, and she is left for dead. And the whole movie, at least the first movie, is her crossing a couple of names off of her revenge list, and her ultimate goal to get to Bill, who is the head of this assassins group that she was a part of before getting a case of bullet face.
Case of bullet face? Doctor, I'm afraid we have a serious case of bullet face here.
I mean, not so serious because she lived.
You can't come at me with this, Johnson. I already am dealing with this guy with knife gut, okay? It's just... there's too much of my plate.
Very technical terms here.
But that's a pretty accurate description of the plot of the movie. Things are very, very simple, considering it is a revenge film. And that allows Tarantino to play with the overall style of the movie. Now, if there was ever a director that took the term style over substance to the extreme, I would say it would be Tarantino.
I'm pretty sure he created style in movies.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I remember the style of this movie more than anything else that actually happens in it. But on the rewatch, I saw some interesting nuances in it that I didn't even remember or notice before. So this rewatch was interesting to me.
And I think that works, especially with Tarantino, who likes to keep all of his movies in one universe. He likes to make callbacks. I mean, this was his 4th movie. I think Kill Bill Volume 1 is his 4th.
That sounds about right.
And so we didn't quite now that we're into like 8 or 9 movies from him, we're seeing all of these things like, oh, there was an ad for Apple cigarettes as she gets into the airport in Okinawa at the beginning or in the middle of the movie, and we've seen Apple cigarettes show up in all of Tarantino's movies at some point. Just little things like that. I feel like that Tarantino does well is keeping within his universe that now we can see since we've had some time since this movie got released.
Yeah. So, boy, this is, man, I mean, where do we even start here? I was surprised even by the first scene that Pher was mentioning, just this brutal fucking killing that we see.
And the first scene isn't even, we don't even see a killing, we just see the bride fucked up.
Right. And we just, I mean, it opens with Bill, the titular Bill, giving her this long speech of, this isn't me being sadistic. This is me at my most masochistic. The scene ends with her muttering the line, "It's your baby," and then bullet to the face. And like it delivers a lot of information like really quickly in the opening of like what's going on.
The scene just made me laugh because this is actually, I'll mention this too, this is the first time I've actually seen this movie in its entirety.
Right.
I've probably seen this movie in entirety gift anyway, but as an actual movie, this is my first time. And that scene made me laugh a little bit because I was just like, no, it's not you, it's me. It's I'm the problem here.
Wow, I guess that's the "it's not you, it's me" of assassination breakups.
Yep.
So we open on her second killing because, of course, with Quentin Tarantino, there's a lot of time jumping around. and we open on Vivica A. Fox, who is which one? She's Copperhead. The best, deadliest woman in the world with an edge weapon, apparently, as we are learned through some of the dialogue here. And there's a very brutal knife fight that I really like this, how it's over-stylized, but yet it's very visceral at the same time. I just thought a lot of the fighting in this movie was actually pretty good. And it's... The thing with it, too, is the professionalism between these two women that are, they have this vendetta. Like, one has the vendetta against the other, and the daughter comes home, and I love that. Like, all I can tell you is I'm a different person now, and I just love that the bride is like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So I know you want to get even. Even? Oh, even? Oh, no. Getting even would be me going up to your daughter's room, killing her, killing your husband, and then killing you. Like, that would be even. I'm going easy on you, if anything. I like this cold professionalism assassin code thing going on in the movie. even in a way where, how would you put it? Like the hospital scene where they could easily have taken care of the whole movie if they had just killed Uma Thurman in her sleep. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We'll do a whole bunch of horrible things if she wakes up, but but the one thing we won't do is kill her in her sleep like a rat. And me and Travis looked at each other like, aren't they assassins? Mm-hmm. Like, isn't there like this their whole job?
Yep, kind
of. I was just like the morality of these people was very amusing and interesting to me. Pher, how'd you feel about the morality in a lot of these crazy characters we met during this film?
Well, I think it really is brought into more of the morality is brought more forward with Hanzo and sort of his way that he talks about finding revenge and making sure, revenge isn't a straight line. It's more of a forest, and you can lose yourself in that revenge. And I think that's kind of what I love about the bride's character is she sort of follows that. The whole fight at the beginning with Copperhead and Vivica Fox, I loved it, and I can see where even that whole scene would upset a lot of people because, it's a fight in a suburban house. She kills the mom right in front of the mom's kid. But it also sets up kind of for what the bride's purpose is throughout the whole movie, and that is, taking back what was stolen from her and acknowledging that, this is probably going to beget more violence. She looked right at the daughter and says, if you someday grow old and still want vengeance on me, I'll be waiting. That right there, I think, is the whole point of the movie, is that this violence is going to beget more violence, and even if she gets her way and gets her revenge, it's not over.
Right. It's very personal to her. And I do like that scene where she tells the kid, like, if you still feel sore about it when you grow up, come find me. And it's like, it's very. This film reminds me of what Quentin Tarantino was going for. What he told Uma Thurman was that I think he had her watch, like, okay, to prepare the film, watch A Fistful of Dollars. I forget what samurai film he wanted to watch too, but there's. It's a mix between a Western and a samurai.
According to IMDb, it's The Killer.
The Killer, right. So I really like that aesthetic, the way that, especially with the musical cues in the film.
Hell yeah, shout out to the RZA.
Yes.
That, if you haven't seen Man with the Iron Fists, I cannot recommend that movie enough. It is basically the RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan making his own movie like this, and it's fucking incredible.
It has Dave Bautista as a guy named Bronze Body who can turn into bronze. Go fucking see that movie, guys. That movie is amazing.
The soundtrack is really good, too, as evidenced by what the RZA did with this soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love I mean, in some points, it's like during the dialogue, especially when Uma Thurman is talking with, I forget his name, Hattori Hanzo, and like they're talking about Bill, and then just this, like, as soon as they even mention Bill, like this little spaghetti western, like, comes in, and it's like so, like, subtlety is not the word of the day of the movie, that's for sure.
Oh, God, no.
But it really works for me. I really like it. Speaking of speaking of non-subtlety, we should talk about O-Ren and her crazy subordinates.
The crazy 88s.
The crazy 88s. And it's interesting to me that we populate this film with an antagonist that really holds no personal grudge against our hero. Like, yeah, she was there, but
she's just a stepping stone.
She's she's number one on the list. She's a hired gun. She has nothing personal against the bride, other than the fact that she participated in the massacre at the church, and like we know, but yet the film spends so much time with us getting to know her as a character. We know O-Ren better than we know the bride.
True, we get a whole anime introduction to her.
Well, which was really interesting. It turns into an anime thing like right away. Like, that's it. Her children, her parents were killed by anime characters. That was a sad part of her backstory.
Although, man, I was having flashback to like 90s like late night anime with that whole. I forgot that sequence was in the first movie because again, it's been 10 years since I've seen it. But like as soon as that hit, I was having nostalgia, like nobody's business. I mean that. Such a Tarantino move to be like, oh, we're gonna completely jump out of one style and go to this style to tell the story the way that I want to tell it. Blood fountains and all.
Yes, blood fountains. Man, we will get to more blood fountains.
Oh, we will.
Oh, so many. But yeah, I agree with that as well. The style switch is really cool. Like, it makes me think like, yeah, Quentin Tarantino watched Ninja Scroll late at night one time and was like, oh shit, man, that's cool. And this film really is over like telling a story in the coolest way that Tarantino can tell it, rather than like I feel like this story is not even about the story itself, but the way it's told. Like that's the focus it's on.
Well, again, there's nothing special about the actual narrative. I mean, it's literally just like, it's a revenge flick. How do you get to it? 5 people have to die. Got it.
Well, even Uma Thurman provides a lot of narration, which I usually feel is a crutch for a lot of movies providing narration in between, but they weave it in very well, especially with the scene where we learn how O-Ren took over the criminal underworld of was it an entirety of Japan, I think?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it was whole of. I thought it might have been just one territory, but no, it was like all of Japan or something. And yeah, so I love that because too is like, so I know what you're asking yourself, like, how did a half Chinese, half Japanese American raised woman rise to the top of these ranks? Well,
go something like this,
and then like it'll immediately transition to his boss Tanaka freaking out throwing a little tantrum. And, man, watching that scene, I still don't get it. Like, Tanaka is...
kind of dumb.
Man, he needs to learn to read the room, dude. Like, I know he's mad and everything, but he has no support in that room. Everyone else is playing it up and sucking it up to the new boss, and he's just like, freaking tradition and all this. And, yeah, I love that, like, normally O-Ren is so reserved. We rarely ever see her angry, and just that one scene of her like exploding and just like
she's not the only one that exploded.
Well, I mean, obviously, from what I know from Tarantino films, our bodies are basically just one big blood packet, and they're just waiting for an outlet before geysers of blood come out. Like, when Tanaka's head comes off, there's like 6 separate different blood jets coming out of his head, and it's like the fountains at the out front of the Villaggio with how much blood is going over, and it's just great. I like O-Ren as a character. I feel Lucy Liu is doing a great job in a pretty reserved... Like, she doesn't have a whole lot to do. She only has a couple scenes to really sell her character, but she sells the shit out of them when she gets the screen time. The Go-Go, one of her,
The crazy one.
The crazy one, in the schoolgirl uniform, which is just like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And she is sold on just being the crazy one out of all the Crazy 88s, and that's saying something, because we get to look at some of the Crazy 88 later, and they all have, like, I love the, what do you call it, the walk towards the camera shot. Like, this might be the inspirer for all the walk towards the camera shots of just them in the house of the, oh man, what's that place called? House of the Falling Leaves?
Something like that.
Or Blue Leaf, damn it, now I can't remember. But yeah, all of the Crazy 88s all have something that they're doing actor-wise. Like, one guy's chewing gum, one of the guys is, like, holding the sword casually over his shoulder like he doesn't care. One of the other guys is, like, walking with, like, the big strut in his leg. Like, everyone is like, okay...
Don't forget anime hair.
Oh, anime hair is my favorite of the Crazy 88s. Like, he is so nuts. Like, he even screams when he runs down the stairs later in, like, the greatest way. I was actually sad when he died. Like, I was like, oh no, not crazy anime hair guy. I liked him. He was my favorite henchman. But yeah, considering we spend most of the film leading up to this giant fight, at the end, that giant fight is pretty spectacular. And I really like all the effect works with all the different blood and the squibs and the fight choreography. It was really good. What did you think about the grand violence in this movie, Pher?
I feel like it was very, very stylized, especially for the purpose of what like the homage that Tarantino was going for with, like, the old, like, Japanese revenge flicks. Someday I want to make a movie of like just an homage to Tarantino movies where it's just a bunch of references to old Tarantino flicks. But I mean, we get different varying levels of violence in each of his movies. Of course, Inglorious Basterds has more of the war violence in it. Pulp Fiction is more of, like, the American gang violence, where this is very much Japanese revenge violence. I didn't feel it so much. I guess, I feel like there's only so many ways that you can chop off a limb and have it. I will say that my favorite part at the end of the fight is the bride saying, leave your limbs, they're mine now. I feel like that was a nice shout out to acknowledge the fact that there are all these still living people, like, writhing around on the ground, and like most movies don't cover that. So I thought that was great. I feel like as the fight went on, it got to be a little bit too much. I think if maybe even the fight was 10 minutes shorter, like, I could have still been on board, but, like, it felt like it dragged at a certain point. Mm-hmm.
It stretches a little long. Like, we didn't have to kill every one of the Crazy 88. Like, maybe it could have been the Crazy 28 or something. But the fight goes out in different styles, and, like, there's black and white, and then I can only describe as the, like, what was it, the Bono commercial, like the Apple commercial they did. Like, it was just like that big silhouette with the blue and
screen.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, she's gonna kill Bono. You know what? Never mind, go for it. And that's what you get for filling up my iPhone with your stupid album.
But House of Blue Leaves, that's what.
House of Blue Leaves, okay. I don't know what I was getting falling out of it. Probably because so many people were falling off of balconies with their limbs chopped off. And, yeah, so sometimes this movie can get a little too stylistic and a little too weird. Like, case in point, like, the bride and O-Ren have this conversation with each other in the middle of the fight when there's a lull. And they're like, oh, you didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you? Like, oh, yeah, for a second there, I actually kind of did.
Which is actually a really good line.
Yeah.
And then they continue on.
And then it's like, silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. And they even fill in the same dialogue with another. I'm like, what the hell did that mean?
That line, I don't know, to me that felt like you could just, like, tell that Tarantino typed that whole series of dialogue out one-handed because he was really busy jerking himself off with his other hand. That's what I got out of that. I'm like, oh, shut up. Nobody's talked any meaningful amount for the last 15 minutes. Let's not ruin this.
See, my theory was that he wrote the punchline of the joke, but then didn't write the first part of it because he was busy on the snorting a line of coke off of the typewriter. Allegedly, he did that. But yeah, because that feels like the only thing I can think of is maybe it would if we were to flashback at one point and see that was an in-joke between those two, that when they were working together as the Deadly Viper Squad. But no, that it never comes back. It never leads to anything, and I just wonder what the hell was that? Why is that there?
He maybe missed something in there. Yeah, that was a weird part, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit. Having to remember that was in there. Because, don't get me wrong, you didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you, line? That was great. But yeah, that silly rabbit thing, it's just I don't...
Yeah.
Okay? So we're just going to jump back into the fight. It's we're already getting what is essentially violence porn right now. I don't care about the dialogue and the plot at this point. We're already in the thick of it.
Well, I also love the fact that Bill is the third man in this movie. We all are always talking about Bill. Bill is always this specter in the background. Everything is always a stepping tone towards Bill. Mm-hmm. Even Hattori Hanzo breaks his vow of never making another weapon to take a life, and he breaks it just because I need to take care of Bill, and he's like, oh shit, well why didn't you say so? Because apparently Bill was a student before and he betrayed them, and there's this long. It feels like there's a lot of mythology to this movie that we are unaware of, to the exact details of what's happening. And we're led to make our own assumptions a lot. And yeah, I mean the fight could have been a little shorter. I feel like the pacing in the movie was pretty good considering it's all one big second act. There's the structure of this movie is very strange with how it is half of a movie because the mission is it's simply not over. We've defeated our first level boss by the end of it, and then the real finisher is in the next movie, and then Volume 2, which is weird because Volume 2 actually changes structure and style quite a bit. So
and that was kind of my thought too. So when I saw these two, I got to see them back to back. When I watched them both for the first time 10 years ago. And the whole time I'm watching the first one in my head, I couldn't help but mix the two together from my memories. And so the whole time, and maybe that kind of detracted something from me on that was, when do they get to this part? Oh, that must happen in the second movie. But what about this? So I feel like maybe with that knowledge, it sort of took it away from me a little bit. Waiting for things to happen that are happening in the second movie. Right.
And, I feel like these two, the movies probably do go better together, watching them together, not unlike a big, play, a big, a Shakespeare-type play, like this big grand revenge story over the course of, 8 acts or whatever, of just, and it's, there's just not a whole lot of resolution with the bride because the most she ever struggles in this film is in the beginning, which technically is the end of the story because it's her second kill order, but or second on the kill list. But by the end of this film, it was basically it was actually a lot more about the only one who goes through a significant change, even somewhat, is O-Ren, because O-Ren insults her. Little Caucasian girl playing with samurai swords. Mm-hmm. And she actually has a self-reflection of I'm doing to you what that boss in the beginning part of this movie did to me. Yeah. and that was unkind of me. She kind of has this. What have I become? I've become what I hate sort of moment. Right before she bites it, but because the bride is all on the murder mission, there's never a point where she even considers letting O-Ren go. There's never really a point where we think that she might not make it or do it. It's all about the ride, I guess.
We didn't even talk about her actual ride.
The beginning of it. Well, I mean, that is also one of the elements that, looking back on it, was like, oh man, we did this a lot back in the... Well, I mean, Quentin Tarantino loves the 70s, right? Loves 70s movies, and this was a big trope of, like, the rape revenge movie. And so, like, when she's in the hospital bed, and they really go in on the whole gross, like... what was it, like, oh, $70 for a fuck, man, here's the rules, and I'm Buck, and I'm here to fuck. And it's like, oh my god, this person is so gross. And I mean, they both meet a grisly demise, but it was still, like, pretty uncomfortable. I don't know, how'd you feel about that scene, Pher?
I felt it was wholly unnecessary. I mean, like, the whole... You can have a revenge film. You've already got sort of her mode for revenge. Oh, I was killed. As far as I know, my baby was killed. My unborn child was killed too. And then to add this whole, like, additional, she's been extra damaged because, well, she's been in a coma. She's been sexually abused by one of the nurses at the hospital. It's like, I don't know. I feel it was maybe a little bit over the top, a little bit of unnecessary additional violence against women, which was a key part of 70s revenge flicks, I guess. But I don't know. It's enough to where I could see some people be like, I don't need to watch the rest of this. This is bad.
Well, I mean, it's triggering, and the fact that it is very pointless to the plot.
There is one important piece of information they drop in. This is the only part I like about it. Was that they do reveal to her that, like, yeah, the plumbing doesn't work anymore. She can no longer have any more children.
Right, like that was another thing that was taken away from her.
Yeah.
So that's one...
That's basically the most important thing from the scene, which could have obviously been changed by not doing anything else with it.
Well, I mean, sometimes I think, do you cut scenes from this movie and O-Ren's backstory to make this into one movie? So that it flows a little bit better?
I have not seen the second movie, so I could not actually say.
Well, I mean, hopefully we can do the second movie at some point for Netflix and Kill as well, because it is also an interesting film. I find these movies very interesting in the way of the grand story of Quentin Tarantino as a director. And his journey basically up his own ass, if you will. I mean, am I wrong, Pher? Like,
no. Oh man,
that's why I think it's funny, like the fact that Pher, you want to do a story stylized based off sort of Quentin Tarantino. I'm like, but he already does that himself. Why would someone have to do that for him?
Well, and the whole run up to a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has just been like the biggest, like, jerk off fest I think I've ever seen Tarantino make. And someone pointed out that, like, we got to, like, peak Tarantino-ness during Inglorious Basterds, when at the end, after he carves the swastika and Colonel's the Colonel's head, like, literally the last thing we see in the movie is Brad Pitt and Ryan from The Office looking down at the camera and saying, I think this might be my best work yet. And then just all of a sudden, giant words, directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's just like, shut the fuck up, dude. I
would have loved it if it was just like, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Yep, it's all downhill from here. Just like, yeah, so... And it's interesting.
One other thing too, without even getting like too far off the fucking rails here, but like, do you remember that lead up to the Hateful Eight? How it was going to happen? He's like, "Oh yes, I'm all done with this," and then the script got leaked, and so he was like, "Aha! Now you don't get to see my movie because somebody stole my script and let other people see it." And then to have it be like, "Oh, I guess I will release it. I must gift you with another film." I just,
I can't burden the world with the lack of my genius. That would be because of the bad acts of a few. That'd just be wrong.
Oh man.
Fuck
Quentin Tarantino, man.
Sometimes I feel like retiring, but then I do another line, and then I'm all up for it again. Allegedly. We don't want to get sued.
Right.
But, yeah. You know what's interesting about the whole hospital sexual abuse scene, too, is that it comes after one of the best acting moments of the film, where Uma Thurman wakes up, she feels her head and the plate that's in there, and then she looks down at her stomach, because she was very pregnant when she got shot. Because it's like her first thoughts when she woke up are, and you see it just on her face, there's no words, it's just, holy shit, I got shot. Oh my god, I'm still alive somehow. And then you look down like, oh shit, I lost my baby. And it's just utter devastation. Like, it's the horror on her face, and it's like, wow. I'm like, you could cut to 3 months later right from there, and I got her story. Like, I know exactly where she's at and why she needs to do what she needs to do. And it takes so long for her to get in the car and then wiggle your big toe, and
she commands her big toes to wiggle.
Right. And of course, not the only uncomfortable foot shot we'll get in this movie.
No.
I do appreciate the wiggle your big toe scene, if only because I think with a lot of movies like that, people wake up out of the coma after years, and then suddenly they're doing the foxtrot the minute they get out of bed. And I do appreciate that they address the fact that it took 14 hours for her muscles to start functioning again, and for her to be able to move around on her own accord, and that kind of. I thought that was a great bit of nuance that I don't think really gets addressed in most movies.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And there's a lot of subtle things about the film that clue you in on how good of a fighter she is, without anyone having to go in the whole, like, she was the best assassin in the world, like, exposition scene. Like, there's that where she's so, like, she's almost like meditating with her body in order to reorganize herself and, like, almost rewire stuff. Like, she has that much control over her own body. There's the little moment where she looks into her sword and sees the reflection of the people behind her. And so you're not surprised when she has kind of like a spider sense, when she can, like, sense people behind her, sort of thing, and, like, and just swing the sword around a circle and decapitate like 10 guys. And there's just a lot of, like, really subtle things, subtle visual storytelling that's very good. I also like the names of all these characters too, of, like, Go-Go. The other right-hand woman was, like, Sophie Fatale.
Yep.
Of just, like, oh man, they're like all Bond villain names. It's great.
You mentioned the visual aspect of things, and one of my favorite visuals actually in the movie isn't like during a fight scene or anything like that. It's when she's flying into Tokyo, and you can tell that Tokyo is just like they built a miniature set. That might be my favorite. Like, as much as I hate Quentin Tarantino's little, yes, this is reminiscent of a 1978 film that I saw when I was 12 and blah, blah, blah. Just like the little subtlety of here's a bunch of, like, cardboard buildings like they would have done in the 70s during these movies, I thought was so good.
It really looks like Godzilla's going to knock that shit down in any minute. Like, yeah, I like that moment too. And they do this, if I could critique Quentin Tarantino on some of his cute shit too, they keep bleeping out the bride's name. Like the film stock is bad or something, like they just keep bleeping it out. And it's weird because even on the plane ticket, it says her name on it.
Yeah.
Like, the plane ticket actually says, they spoil that part of it. And then they drop her name in the beginning of the next movie like it's no big deal.
I was very confused in the first scene they do that too, because I thought she just swore at the little girl. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Weird thing to do, but all right.
It did sound like, this is mommy's friend, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
all right, I guess we're not being subtle about this. Why'd you stop killing each other then?
It's like that, what's it called? The unnecessary censors, or, have you ever seen those, videos online? And yeah, I mean, I do have problems with the film overall, but surprisingly, like, one of my bigger problems of just, like, not a whole lot of resolution by the end of it. It's surprising because I actually like this film better than Part 2 in a lot of ways. But I mean, we can get into that more if like whenever we cover the volume 2. Pher, how'd you feel overall about it now that we're kind of, all there into it? Is there anything last minute you want to bring up?
I think overall it doesn't work as a solo movie. I mean, obviously, right away that we knew it was going to be a two-parter. It wasn't like this movie did really well, and so we're making a second one. I think, if I remember correctly, this one got released at the beginning of 2003, and the second one got released towards the beginning of 2004. So it was very, very short. Actually, it might have even been shorter release dates between the two. But ultimately, on its own, I was not a huge fan of Kill Bill Volume 1. I think the fight scene goes on a little bit long. I think they had too much of a fridging the main female character. That like the whole sexual abuse stuff in the hospital, I thought was wholly unnecessary and sort of took things out. Honestly, overall, I would recommend Kill Bill Volume 1 so far as you watch the second one almost immediately after. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I would not recommend Kill Bill Volume 1 on its own.
I agree. I thought we were going to disagree a lot more on this one, but actually I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, a lot of my problems with this movie are the fact that it makes strange decisions on what it focuses on and what on its time management. I do feel like the visual style overall does do a lot to make up for it, but not quite enough to make it to where, like, you couldn't watch this one and go like, oh yeah, I'm done. I don't need to watch number 2. You pretty much, like, in order to get full context, and you really do need to watch it. Also, I start to realize that maybe it's just because we didn't get a chance to know them. I feel like we focused on the least interesting of the Deadly Viper Squad. Like, O-Ren is like this cold kind of, murder monster and everything, but I've always been fascinated by what's her name? Elle? The California mountain snake, mm-hmm. She drew the shit straw on the snake names for, because everyone else is a cool catchy name, like Copperhead or Cottonmouth or Black Mamba, and she gets like California mountain snake. I was like, oh, okay. And I thought, like, her utter hatred for the bride is, like, she despises her so much. Like, you got to figure there must be some sort of backstory with that. And she's obviously really jealous of her relationship with Bill. And, like, I just thought there was a lot more to explore there with her. And we don't really do that up until, like, Volume 2, and even then, not that much. Even Bill's brother, Buck. Or no, not Buck.
Buck's the one that likes to fuck.
Yeah, Buck's the ones that likes to fuck. What's Bill's brother? Now I can't even remember. Damn it. I felt like he's got an interesting backstory, too, of a broken down old samurai sort of thing. And Bill himself is... I mean, his dialogue is all about how cool he is. like there's... Everything he says is kind of like... I feel like a film college student... like talking to me about philosophy. I just kind of like, oh, shut up. Like, you egotistical son of a bitch. But I think that's what we're supposed to get out of it.
It was
Bud. Bud, that's what it was. And yeah, so Travis, this is your first time seeing Kill Bill in its entirety, even though you've got a lot of the review osmosis, like he said. What did you feel like overall?
I agree on pretty much every point both of you said for this, is that this movie is impressive in a lot of ways. Is that it is very stylized, because it's Quentin Tarantino. He has a certain skill set that when he's not up his own ass is very good at doing. The actual, like, the way they do deliver information is very seamless in the movie. That even though they stopped and kind of like, okay, here's a bunch of dialogue, they don't stop the movie to tell that dialogue. The scenes keep moving as it goes on, which is kind of impressive. The fight scenes do go on just a little bit too long. They at least keep changing up, at least with like what they're doing in the fight, and the music changes in the fight. So it's too long, but it doesn't make it uninteresting to watch.
Sure.
And I don't know, I feel like this movie is, like, it is obviously has a sequel, and I think, even going into it, you kind of know, like, oh yeah, this is not going to be finished in this, 2-hour movie. It still stands, I think it stands pretty solid on its own as kind of like this revenge flick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what I'd give it for a rating, considering I don't feel like it's fair to rate this movie without the other one. Then again, they did release it as one movie, so, I don't know. Call it like 3.5 out of 5, and then the overall rating for both of them would be like different. I don't know. If you were to give it a number rating?
That one, probably on its own, I give it like a 6.5.
Out of 10?
Yeah.
All right. We sometimes give number ratings, and they're usually pretty arbitrary. You don't have to give one, but if you were to rate the movie, would you at least recommend it?
I would, on a scale of 4 hacked off limbs, I would give it 2 out of 4 hacked off limbs. Maybe an arm, and like maybe a foot shot off or something like that. But my recommendation...
And Quentin Tarantino's like, all I need is the foot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the gun physics do not make any sense with a handgun. Anyway, I would say that on its own, don't go out and watch Kill Bill Volume 1 unless you're going to plan to watch the second one in the same sitting. Put aside the 4 hours and 20 minutes that it would take to watch both movies. Watch them both back to back. That way you can get the context within the movies. Just don't go into it looking for a good treatment of women when it comes to their backstories, I guess. And also watch the Robot Chicken parody of Kill Bill, which is, I think, my favorite Kill Bill parody ever.
I don't remember that one. I'll have to go back and watch it.
I'll send a link in the chat box here.
Please do. So yeah, I just want to read a couple stats here that I found interesting about the film too. Is apparently they went through both movies 450 gallons of fake blood.
I feel like that's actually lowballs it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems like a low amount of blood.
Yeah, Pher's like, oh no, I think I saw at least 800 gallons.
Are you sure
there.
450 isn't just the first movie?
Because even when they cut off Sophie's arm, I mean that thing like squirted out like a frickin'.
That was a super soaker of blood.
Well, going by Tarantino rules, people are made up of 80% blood.
It's true.
Well, we're basically blood sacks.
And that was that was kind of like my favorite comical part of it was even as she's laying on the ground there squirming, like when you see the Charlie Brown guy, the owner of the House of Blue Leaves, run out. Sophie's still squirming on the ground. You can still see blood shooting out of her arm wound as she's laying
she's
there.
Still conscious somehow.
Oh boy. Also, I wanted to mention, do you know who obviously David Carradine is the one playing Bill. We don't really see him in this movie. But do you know who was up to who were some of the other Bills that could have been killed? There was up for the role were Jack Nicholson, Kurt Russell, Mickey Rourke, and here's a weird one,
Burt
Reynolds.
Okay, the first three are fine and make sense. That one's random.
Burt Reynolds is going to be in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
He is. That's right. I forgot about that.
So we do get him in a Tarantino flick finally.
Finally, and the fans have been demanding it. You know what I need? Burt Reynolds. And yeah, I think we won't do a spoiler section for this one because this film is so old and everyone knows it. Plus,
the
it's only
spoiler
half
section
of a movie.
would be the second movie.
But I will spoil one part of it that I feel like I want to talk about because it's the one thing I really don't like about this movie that I wish they wouldn't have done. But it's right at the end. So if you don't want to hear it, just tune out right now for the next 5 minutes or so, and then we'll come back. All right, everybody gone. Why in the hell do they drop the spoiler of her daughter is alive?
To get people excited for the next movie, I guess.
I would assume, but wouldn't they never mention until the very end of the next movie, and it's this big emotional moment. And I thought it would be so much better if you would have been there with the character, like, oh my god, my daughter is alive. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like that was it was a misstep. I don't like it. Pher, how do you feel about it?
Well, I feel like we could have gotten a lot more out of maybe. I think the bride's revenge path would have taken a huge U-turn if she had known her daughter was alive. And I think maybe letting us, the audience, know that her daughter's still alive maybe gives us a little bit more of a, well, now you would be fighting for something different if you knew that.
I see.
But
okay.
But without her knowing that, with only us knowing it, I don't know that it really matters that much, because what's the point of us? We can't do a goddamn thing about it when we're not in the movie. So maybe. Does she really not know until the end of the second movie? Is that the whole thing? She only...
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it a couple times, and she sees her daughter for the first time.
Okay.
Like, hey, mommy, and she goes, and you see it on her face, like, holy shit.
Okay.
Like, it's a huge moment for her, and so it's like I found that very surprising that they would let us know and not the character. Like,
yeah,
let us know so
odd.
Far in advance.
Exactly. We've still got 2 hours to go before we get to see that. So that's a little strange. I think maybe that's just like some stupid Tarantino dun 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 cliffhanger writing that he'd do. I don't know.
Yeah, like check in for the next movie sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did look it up.
Ahead,
I did look it up. Kill Bill Volume 1 dropped in October of 2003. Volume 2 dropped in April of 2004. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was not, because originally they were one movie. He just cut it literally in half to, like, there wasn't any other filming shoots they had to do. It was all one movie, but it ran at like 4 hours and 20 minutes. And so he said, well, we'll just split it up.
Okay.
Which makes it even more surprising that the second half has such a stylistic difference.
Right? Like, the second half is almost like a completely different movie. Like, that's very strange now that I know that. And yeah, I do love the lead up to that moment, though, like the best speech ever of like, I want you to tell them everything you've told me. I want them to know, and I want them to know that I want them to know.
Yeah.
And I want them to know that I want them to know that I know. And it's just like, it's just one step below not unlike a Robot Chicken sketch or something of just just so schoolyard, like, I know, but you know what.
I'm gonna tell him, but you tell him. I'm totally gonna tell him.
I just thought that was funny. But unless anyone has any last minute thoughts on Kill Bill.
Again, I'm pretty sure the end of this movie just involves a bunch of cops going to the House of Blues and go like, some Caucasian woman came in and killed a bunch of school children. What the fuck? Because like all the crazy 88 are like in school dresses.
Well, I mean, they're all in a singular uniform, and
which happens to look like school uniforms.
Now you're making me think that she's just accidentally killed a bunch of school children on a field trip.
When they were wandering through like the House of Blues, it looked more like two parents leading like a bunch of school children on a field trip instead of like this bodyguards of assassins. I'm like, okay.
They did have the one kid among them. They had the one kid that she spanks and lets go. So, Pher, how about you?
I mean, as far as Tarantino movies go, I think Inglorious Basterds will always be my favorite, if only because it's a bunch of Jewish resistors killing Nazis. Which puts it number one on my all-time Tarantino movie list.
Yeah, the only downside is that couldn't be relevant today in any way.
Right,
That's a shame.
exactly. But I think ultimately, I mean, for what Tarantino tries to do, which, we talk about style over substance, and you can literally put the plot of Tarantino movies in one sentence. In this case, it's woman seeks revenge on those who tried to kill her. I mean, there's no other plot to it. That is it. It's just how you get there, and for how we get there, it's such a good job. But I think you can still tell that Tarantino's kind of trying to do things a little differently than he did with like Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, and it works in some places, not so much in other places. But ultimately, it's a fun movie. There's a lot of fighting. The fight choreography is good, and there's a heavy amount of blood fountain.
Yes. Blood Fountain. That has to be in the name of a band somewhere. Blood Fountain.
I will say, too, my wife usually watches these movies with me as we do these. Like, she watched Bright with me that first time we did Bright. I think you watched some of Hot Fuzz with me as well. She's sitting here right next to me. And she watched
my goodness, she's been listening the whole time?
The whole time. And she...
I'm so sorry I said fuck so much.
She's currently doing a cross stitch right now, and that's going to have like a Bon Iver lyric with the word fuck on it at some point. So it's fine.
That's rad.
But her only review of this movie didn't elaborate on anything else. She goes, she's laughing about this right now, looked at me and said, Quentin Tarantino is a weeaboo, and this movie was a waste of time.
I mean, not wrong, but the weeaboo part at the very least. Cannot deny that part.
Oh my goodness, that's the best.
So
okay,
that's my wife's review of the movie, at least.
So you know what? I realize we have to have your wife on for more of these reviews. Is the main takeaway I've taken.
Background reviewer.
I want her to give just one sentence reviews of all of the movies now.
Well, I'll get her one sentence review from here on out for like everything.
We would love them. I found that very enjoyable. I think we have to go out on that. We're not going to go on a stronger note than that. So thank you everyone for listening. It's been fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure.
Of course. Would you like to let the people know where they can find you, your online and your content, your stand-up and all that good stuff?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Professor Pher. Follow me on Facebook. Come and see me at Ox Roost in Minneapolis on August 17th. And come see me do various things at Fearless Comedy Productions. Like us on Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm. And also, I would also like to mention his comedy album. I believe it's still on iTunes, right? Yep. Everybody's having so much fun.
Still on iTunes, still on Spotify, still getting that sweet $10 every 6 month Spotify check. It's awesome.
Oh my God, you are a rich man, sir. When you spring in for the drinks next time we meet up.
I guess.
And Pher is such a great guy. He's almost as funny as his wife, apparently.
She must have heard that. She just started laughing.
Better.
You could disagree with me a little bit.
No, Nick. Here's the rule of married life. Even when you're right, your spouse is more right.
More right. Oh, this has been really fun. Thank you so much. But oh man, I'm losing it. Okay.
Cut it out.
If you want to check out some of our previous recordings with Pher, you can check out our Hot Fuzz or Bright review on our back catalog on iTunes. Check us out on Twitter at UGO Podcast, or Instagram is the same thing. Check us out on Facebook, or you can email us at unapologeticgeekout@gmail.com. Suggest a movie for us, or give us your own wife's opinions on movies. Let's get more of them on here. It's always a sausage fest. We could use more of the lack of Y chromosomes up in here. With that, we are Unapologetic Geek Out, and we're out.